Rich, welcome back. It is great to have you with us.
Great to be with you again, Steve.
Was it at least fun on your part listening to James talk about Aaron Rodgers and leaving him too much time?
Yeah, that was interesting. It was an answer, and I was in the middle of transcribing it. An answer to a question about analytics,
right?
But I don't think any analytics can account for Aaron Rodgers' precision and accuracy.
No, not in the least, and that's what makes it so interesting. And he's right. Yeah. There's that fine line, and I'll say this with all due respect. Do I leave Jalen Hurts with 37 seconds? Yeah. Would I prefer not to leave Aaron Rodgers with 37 seconds? I would not. But you have to score. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, the one mistake, and I didn't realize it watching the game, but I saw, I don't know if it was somebody mentioned it, that Jimmy Garoppolo snapped the ball with 14 seconds left on the play clock.
Yeah.
The clock running. Now, I didn't notice that watching the game. Now, maybe they could have run it down another 8 or 9 seconds, sure. But that's easy to say in hindsight when you're trying to score the go-ahead touchdown.
So what was your takeaway from the press conference today, Rich?
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump so quickly.
No, I don't know why I didn't expect the press conference. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I think it's very interesting, the whole dynamics. I asked the question about Indiana. Indiana has played Penn State very well the last 3 years,
exactly.
Not just the last 1 or 2 years.
That's right.
There's something about the matchup, and I believe firmly in matchups.
Me too.
You mentioned Muhammad Ali and Ken Norton, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. They matched up well with Ali for whatever reason. So I think that's my takeaway, that Indiana yes, the program is better, their recruiting is better, but Indiana seems to have, at least the last 3 years, have Penn State, I don't want to say figured out, but at least match up well with Penn State. And I don't know what will happen Saturday. I know we talked to P.J. Mustapher this morning, and I know James, he's going to continue with his 1-0 mantra, but it has to be, human nature is human nature, and they've got to be thinking about last year's game at Indiana and how it ended, and how, they made enough mistakes, Penn State did, to lose the game, but the way the game ended on a very controversial call, I got to think that especially this week, is sticking in the back of their craw.
Have you had a chance to see Indiana at all? And I'll freely admit, obviously, I saw the Cincinnati game and I saw the Western Kentucky game.
I listened to the Western Kentucky game and your friend Don Fisher on the way home Saturday night.
Okay.
And so I haven't been able to see them, but I listened to that game almost the whole way home.
Okay.
But I know Michael Penix has struggled. He has 2-3 interception games. He didn't do that against Western Kentucky. I know they had a real tough game against Western Kentucky, and I know the Hilltoppers gained almost 500 yards against Indiana. So, no, I haven't been able to see them yet. And I'm curious to see what Michael Penix's mobility is. I've seen highlights, and it's hard to tell off highlights, but I'd like to see him, running, trying to scramble away from a pass rush, see what kind of mobility he has.
When you see, obviously, Noah Cain's been starting, and we know what Noah can do. Kevon Lee has been the next guy in. Now the third guy in has been John Lovett. So since he is new to the mix, what have you thought about seeing him in the first couple of games that he's been in the mix, and what do you think he adds to the offense when he's in there?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that he adds a lot to the offense, and I think he's got a burst, and it seems to me that he has a vision. We haven't seen a ton of him, but I've seen enough to realize that he is definitely a positive factor. And I think going forward, if Kevon Lee continues to struggle to hold on to the ball, that Lovett will move into the number 2 spot. And if Noah Cain is dinged up enough where he can't play Saturday, and we won't know that until Saturday, then he may even actually start Saturday. So I've been impressed with him for sure.
All right, so the offensive line has been brought up. So how have you looked at them through the first 4 games of the season?
I thought they played very well against Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I think they took a step back against Villanova. Too many times Villanova put pressure on Sean Clifford with a 3-man rush, and that should never happen, no matter who you're playing against. I just think no matter how good Villanova's run defense is, and it is, they're still an FCS team, and 34 carries for 80 yards just isn't going to get it done against the remaining teams on Penn State's schedule, which are obviously all in the Big Ten. They have to run the ball better. James Franklin said that several times after the game Saturday. And so I don't know if it's – he said that, again, today, he said that the offensive line needs to play with more of an edge, needs to be more physical. So I'm guessing that it's not technique. He's not saying that it's more of an attitude thing. But there's not going to be much room for error going forward here the rest of the season with the schedule that Penn State faces.
Right. I think it's a good way of putting it. The margin of error shrinks because it's going to be a grind the rest of the way. When you look at the defense, let's start with the front. We know Penn State over recent years has been able to get a lot of pressure with the front. What have you thought of them so far this season?
I think they've done a really good job, and I think that was one of the question marks going into the season because of losing your starting defensive ends, and obviously Hakeem Beamon, who was the projected starter, has been out with an unspecified injury. I think, I knew P.J. Mustipher was going to be very good, and he has been, but I think they've gotten real strong end play out of Arnold Ebiketie and Nick Tarburton and Jesse Luketa. And Jesse Luketa at end, to me, like I think I said to you, maybe 2 weeks ago, has been a find. And I think he's found a home. I think he's really, really good at the end. So, yeah, do they need to get to the quarterback a little better? Probably, but I would agree with James Franklin's assessment of the Villanova game. Daniel Smith was getting rid of the ball pretty quickly.
Exactly.
And so I wouldn't read too much into their sack total. They had 3. I wouldn't read too much into that. But I do think they need to get to the quarterback better, and I do think they're going to need to get to the quarterback Saturday against Indiana.
Yeah, which then brings up the secondary. When you look at them, you and I have looked at Penn State's secondary play for 4 decades apiece. What do you think of this group?
It's as good or better than any I've seen.
I agree.
I'd have to really sit down and look. I can't think of one better. His name has been hardly mentioned. And then I realized, well, duh, because nobody's throwing to his side.
Tariq Castro Fields. And this is believe it or not, this is something that Jack and I have brought up. He doesn't have stats. Well, he doesn't have stats because nobody's going in his direction. When they finally do, he deflects the ball over to Jair Brown.
Yeah. He's been obviously he's been really, really good. I just think with the starting safeties they have now with Jaquan Brisker and Tig Brown, and Joey Porter is getting picked on because nobody wants to go to the other side of the field. But I think he's done a pretty good job. I think the secondary is outstanding, and they will be tested Saturday.
No doubt.
If Penix has time to throw with the group of receivers that Indiana has. But no, Steve, I'm with you. I think I can't think of a better secondary than this one.
To me, what actually that helps elevate it has been, to me, the elevated play of Daquan Hardy. What have you thought about him? Because you have to play so many sub packages these days, and he's critical in the sub package.
Yeah, and he's been very good. And I should have mentioned him, when you asked me first about it. Yeah, he's been very, very good. The only pass that I can remember him getting beat on, and I'm not going to be hard on this, is the back shoulder pass that Bo Nix threw.
Right.
But other than that, I think he's been outstanding. And this group of D-backs, to me, man, they're really, really good. And, if Penn State could get consistent pressure on the quarterback with the front four and not need Brandon Smith or Ellis Brooks to blitz in the sub packages, they're going to be really tough to score against.
Interesting. I'm not really one that pays too close attention to the top 25 until they get to the college football playoff rankings, because to me that becomes the ball game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but of the original top 25 preseason, 9 of those 25 have 2 losses.
Yeah.
After 4 weeks. I don't mean 2 losses after 10 weeks. They have 2 losses after 4 weeks. What have you thought overall of this college football season to this point?
A lot of uncertainty because of the impact of the super seniors. There are a lot of teams like Villanova in the FCS that has a bunch of sixth-year players.
Yes.
And or even fifth-year players who are playing their fifth year. You want to call them super seniors, whatever. So it's hard really to get a read on a lot of things. But it's clear, Steve, and you didn't ask me about this, it's clear that the Big Ten East is very, very deep and strong.
Yes.
And you're not going to be able to afford an off day against any of those teams and win. You're not. It's just not going to happen. And yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, I think, there are teams that you're just scratching your head at. Like, I'm going to be honest. I'm scratching my head at the Notre Dame-Wisconsin final. Yeah. I know Notre Dame scored late, but, then, there are other games like even USC. Look at USC losing to Oregon State at home for the first time in 50 years. Holy moly.
I know.
And, different things like that. Clemson. Look at Clemson. I mean, I would have never expected that. Maybe they weren't as good as last year, but I would have never expected them to have 2 losses by now. I don't know who else. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but yeah, it's really. I think it's a really open possibility. There's a lot there. It's wide open. The college football playoff to me is wide open, with the exception of that team in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. Final question. Obviously, when you write something, obviously people can make comments. I don't even know if you even pay attention to it or not.
The only comments I pay attention to, if somebody emails me and it's a rational, question or comment, I'll write back to them, but I don't pay much attention to that. No.
Good. Well, first of all, good for you, because I feel the same way. Like, I don't really care.
No.
Right.
No, and I don't mean that. I
know.
No,
right.
Yeah.
But when I'm listening to other shows, and people call in, and I'm not. It has nothing to do with Penn State. I'm just talking about national. The topic this particular day I was listening to was Oklahoma and Spencer Rattler. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking myself, in this new world that we're in, that it's not name, image, and likeness that's creating vitriol. I think it's the gambling part that's creating vitriol, because I think some people are losing some money on some games, and I think that creates more emotion because it becomes personal.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think that's part of it, but I think just as big a part of it is social media.
Yeah.
Where people can get on and rant all they want, and there's no name attached. Most of the ranting is done by people that don't identify themselves or anonymously. So I think, but I agree with you with both. I've said this before. Maybe I've said it to you on the show before. I'm not sure. I grew up in a house with a compulsive gambler. Yeah. My father.
Okay.
And I don't look down on gamblers. Like, if you're doing it as an amusement or a hobby, okay. But I want no part of it anymore. And I follow the betting lines. I do, but I don't. I just the amount of commercials on television for gambling that I see is just incredible.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm going off on a tangent here about gambling, but it
No,
really is. But it really truly is incredible how many spots you see, it's just overwhelming at times. But I think you're right. I think there is a component. There are gamblers who are upset about their teams, whether they're college, whether they're pro, and it really, really bothers them if they don't win. I think that's part of it, and I think the social media is part of it too. I think social media can be really useful to people like us in our business for true information from reputable sources, but then you have the flip side of it where people are just going off and just half-cocked and saying whatever is on their mind.
Hey, you never had talked about your dad before, so which gives an incredible perspective to it. It really does, because I mean, to me, my attitude's always been, hey, look, it's your money, you do what you want. But remember, when you lose, it's not because the guy lost for you. You're the one that lost because you put the money down. So,
yeah. No, my father lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. Fortunately, it didn't. We didn't have to sell the house or anything like that. But and he was a compulsive gambler. He was. That's the way it was, and we lived with that for a long time. And I don't want to get into that as much. But I understand gambling. Like I do understand. And if I go to Las Vegas, and I've been to Vegas twice, I'll place a bet on games. Sure.
Yeah.
In Vegas, sure.
Right.
I don't. But you're right. To take it as seriously as some people and just badmouth a Spencer Rattler or whoever it may be, because you lost money. Yeah, that's just not good.
Appreciate you so much, and I guess we talked to you about coming down, joining us downtown in a couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to that very much.
Yeah, me too, Steve. I'm sorry I couldn't do it last week. I had a golfing date with Mr. Nate Bowers. So
very nice, very nice. Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate you so much.
Take care. Bye.